Good afternoon and welcome all of those that are new to this channel. And I thank you, those of you that take the time to comment. I try to reply back, but the system, that alerts me that there are comments isn't the greatest. So if I missed your comment, it's not on purpose because I didn't get the notifications. Or if you leave multiple comments in the same video, I'm probably only going to be notified about one of them. So do what I can. And thank you, all of you who showed concern for my current situation. Yeah, I'll admit it. It's been absolute hell since September. Every battle I fought, I lose, and every time I start to pick myself up a little bit, more piles on. And the worst part of it is I'm shown no empathy from the people around me. I mean, I do have people I turn to, but they all live hours away, away from the culture of this place. And they also see things for what they are, which is very refreshing because I can confide in them and give them just bits and pieces of whatever situation I'm talking about. And they can put it together what's going on and tell me how messed up it is, which is nice. So I know that I'm not losing it. It's like, they're coming to the same conclusion. I check with multiple people, including, my therapist, who I still talk to, who was my therapist down in Virginia when I was first dealing with PTSD. So, and he's from down south. So I just need that reassurance sometime that it's like the way things work here aren't normal and I don't have to deal with it for much longer. But, given my duties as the executor of my mother's estate, I have to handle that. And it's going to be a long winter. I'm about to start a job that I don't want, but, give it a shot, see how it goes. I never get the job I want. Or if I do, I get cheated out of it. I can say the same thing about girls, too. Maybe I'll get into another video about everything that's going on, not in detail, because, for the most part, I like to respect people's privacies, except for borderlines. Narcissists, rapists, child molesters, wife beaters, those I will expose you by your name. Come at me. But what I want to get into today is a very important topic for those of us that have had the misfortune for dealing with narcissists and borderlines, and that is their hatred of free will. Why do they hate free will so much? Well, a lot of reasons for that. For starters, they're authoritarian. A narcissist and a borderline both see themselves as like a tin pot dictator, sort of. And this can manifest in different forms depending on how you're dealing with the narcissist. Like, obviously, if you're romantically linked to the narcissist, or if the narcissist, and by the way, I'm saying narcissist, but I mean borderline too. If there's something specific to one or the other, I will differentiate. But a lot of this overlaps, as cluster B personality disorders overlap quite a bit. And always remember, they choose to act like this. It is their choice, which they make of their free will. But if you make a choice of your free will that doesn't align with what they want, ooh, then the meltdowns and the entitlements and the I'll hurt myself and the don't you know who I am because I said so, and I know what's best for you, and you can't do that, you're not allowed to do that, or just screaming fits, whatever fits their mood at the time, because whatever they do is justified because they're them, and whatever they want, they're entitled to it. Where was I? Right. So I actually do forget. Oh, I'll recover. Give me a second. So they hate free will and they see themselves as tin pot dictators, especially in the romantic setting. If you're romantically linked to a narcissist or a borderline, or they simply want you to be, they will act as if you are their property. And, narcissists display it a little differently. Like, let's say we got a narcissist and a borderline who has a target. They want to be with this person romantically, but maybe that person isn't into them in that way, or maybe, or they're interested in somebody else. The narcissist will be more like to the person that the target actually wants, will be like, you don't want her, like, she's a whore, and she's been with this one and she's got a drinking problem and she's needy and she's clingy. They'll try to denigrate and devalue the target to try to push competition away. The borderline, on the other hand, will just assert that that's their property, and if you are the person that target's interested in, they'll just straight up get in your face and be like, that's mine. And the borderline will do that and think like, well, this person, who the target wants to be with, must obey my wishes because I'm me and I'm entitled to get whatever I want. And whatever I say I want, if somebody else is standing in the way of that, they should just get out of the way for me because I'm me. That's the level of entitlement with the borderline. And they'll get in your face and they'll try to scare you. And a lot of times it works because a lot of people, as I said in other videos, just don't want to deal with that. They, the crazy is out there in the open with a borderline. Narcissists, something's up, but a lot of them, especially the coverts, can hide it to a degree. If you don't know what you're dealing with, borderlines, people figure out in a couple minutes, like, you're crazy. There's something seriously wrong here because they're all chaos all the time and they just throw it out there, but they feel entitled to do it as they do it. Another way this can manifest, as I said, this is about free will. So in their mind, if they claim ownership of somebody, that person doesn't have the free will to say no or to, even worse, to pursue somebody else. And therefore, that other person they may be pursuing, that person in the mind of the borderline and the narcissist doesn't have the free will to be with that person, even if that target is pursuing them. And there's something between them. Everybody's just supposed to abide by the wishes, whatever the narcissist wants. And, when in this situation, when either or don't get their way, it's an epic meltdown because the narcissist will be like, well, I'm the greatest person ever, whether there's chemistry between them and the target or not. Like, you'd be so lucky to have me. And they'll start rattling off everything they have materially. They won't be getting into like, we have this in common, we have this chemistry, like, these things aren't common and we both have it. And we want the same things. No. It'll be all about like, I drive this kind of car and I have this much money and, my family's, like considered royalty in this township. That might be a Chester County thing. Stuff like that. Like, my parents have a beach house and we have a boat and, I'm so great. Given that, from my experience, especially in this area, it's like, I was captain of this team in high school and homecoming king. That's the kind of stuff the narcissist will do when they're trying to like basically tell this target that you must date me. Like, I'm settling for you. So abide. You should be thankful. Borderline, as I just went into in my favorite person video, will just latch on and not leave the person's side. They'll just scare off anybody else who tries to get close to them. They will intimidate the target so that the target is afraid to get close to or show affection to anybody else and will be afraid of the reaction of the borderline and be looking over their shoulder and just, not want to deal with the meltdown that the borderline is going to throw if they disobey the borderline's wishes. And I can tell you from personal experience, the borderline will read the target's text messages. If the target's texting somebody else and it seems like they're getting close, they'll rip the phone out of the target's hand and text the person the target was into and try to scare them off that way, and fully like act as if they have the right to do that. Yeah. And their enablers will make excuses for it because narcissists and borderlines help each other. I'll get into that in another video, but borderlines and narcissists both usually have enablers that, excuse their behavior because it's okay because they're them, because, there's some kind of weird, like, high schoolish, cliquey, enabling thing going on in a lot of cases, especially in a workplace. It can be going on in families too, especially among boomers. But that's a way in which, they hate free will. So that target exhibiting free will, trying to, get close to the person they want to get close to, or simply back off and set boundaries with the narcissist or the borderline, just sends them into a rage. They hate that. Like, they feel like, if I picked you, you're mine, end of story. Now, this can manifest free will. Their hatred of free will can manifest in a relationship between a narcissistic boss and their target or scapegoat. So narcissistic bosses in general, and I've had two, one narcissist, one borderline male, ain't many of them, but borderline male entitled baby boomer. Oh joy. Yeah. Used to break things all the time, including my computer, and then blamed me. all because I told him that what he asked me to do is illegal. That's a good segue into this. So narcissistic bosses believe that their employees are their property. They also believe, some of this is reviewed from other videos, but I need to reiterate, narcissistic bosses also believe that, no one can do what they do, and oh my God, they do so much, and they have the weight of the world on their shoulders, and it can be some pedestrian job where it's like, yeah, you're the boss, and you got scheduling and shit you got to deal with, but like, we ain't dealing with life and death here. Like, you're not, yeah, you're not running a country here. Let's be honest. But they'll act as if like, they're always they're always like, you'll see him like not doing anything all the time. Like, my borderline boss would always be sitting in his at his desk organizing his pens and the stuff on his desk, and then it'd be, help, Excel, I don't understand, I miss the 80s. Yeah, you see that with narcissistic bosses. Like I said, they think, no one can do what they do, they're the greatest, and most importantly, they think anything they tell you, you must do because they're the boss. Typical narcissist or borderline fashion. You can't say no. Even if they're bullying you into like missing some important event, that you may have already requested all 4 weeks in advance. It's like, well, I need you. I have something important, like, and if I deem it important, it's important. Whatever you think is important has nothing to do with serving my needs. Therefore, it's not important, and bend to my will, kind of stuff. And they'll guilt trip people into doing them favors, and then say if that employee, a couple weeks later, it's like, hey, you owe me one. Like, I don't owe you nothing. I'm talking, like, oh, God, I love myself. That's the narcissistic boss. So even if you try to placate them and do them favors, they'll act as if like you owe them nothing. It's like, you're mine to command. Don't you know who I am? That kind of stuff. Yeah, like that's what you're dealing with, a narcissistic boss. And they hate free will because anybody like me who stands up to them and is like, that's against OSHA regulations, or it's illegal to spray that chemical, it was outlawed in the early 90s, or my favorite, you're not my boss, I work for a different department. If you challenge the narcissistic boss's absolute authority, they lose it because they truly believe they have it. Like they truly believe like their subordinates are their property. And I don't just mean at work. Like they think like, oh, I can tell you who you can talk to, who you can date, whatever I want. Like I'm me, and they will refer to their employees as theirs. Like they'll say like, my greenskeepers, uh, my firefighters, my servers, and they'll, as if they're their property, and that every aspect of their life, like they need to check with that narcissistic boss first. And that narcissistic boss will have no shame in butting in on things. Like, why are you talking to this person? It's like, say what I say. What the fuck's it to you? They don't like that. And if you exhibit free will that goes against, their wishes, even if what they're saying, is completely not within their authority, they will lose it. They will lose it and try to assert their dominance. And the sick thing is when this happens, they'll assert their dominance by asserting how what they're doing is right, like how they have that authority, like their delusions of grandeur and delusions of what power they actually have knows no bounds. And they'll threaten you. They'll break shit in front of you, threaten to hit you with stuff, but that's fine because it's them. And it's another important part with narcissistic bosses, and you'll see this manifest when you exert free will, especially when you exert free will and you're 100% in the right. The narcissistic boss will then go on a rant, basically telling you how the rules don't apply to them because they're them. Because remember, they're these superior beings. That's how they got to where they are. They're just the best of the best. You'll typically see this among narcissists who are middle management. We're talking in the boss realm. And usually like narcissistic middle management bosses, they're yes men. They're yes men. They're brown nosing to whoever's above them, who's usually a lazy burnout who, is phoning it in, trying to coast. And so they'll promote typically a yes man who maybe isn't qualified for that position. And the narcissistic yes man is all about it. Why? Because now they have power, and narcissists love, and get off on power. The littlest bit of power go to their head. So in that situation, now you have a narcissist with power, and they're continuously drunk on power. They're getting off on it. They're getting off on dominating people and all that because that's how they feel big and important. Like, they love telling people what to do. And in the case if they're not really qualified, like if they don't have the educational background, the experience, etc., they'll take the job seriously because deep down they know, like, I don't know how I got this, and they're getting off on the power. But because in a lot of these cases they're not qualified, and I've seen this in the golf industry, particularly when I was in the maintenance part, the narcissistic middle management person will defend the lazy, possibly narcissistic like head boss because they don't know what else to do. Like if workers try to go to them and try to be like, well, this is wrong, you can't make us do this, and this is coming from the head boss, they'll just back up the head boss. That's why like burnout, lazy, older narcissists who don't want to do their jobs anymore love narcissistic younger people as their middle management, because the narcissistic middle management person, when challenged with somebody's free will or rules and regulations, common sense, integrity, anything like that, they'll just parrot whatever their upper said. And in their mind, because they're also a narcissist, they'll be like, well, the narcissist said it, so it must be true. So like to the narcissistic middle management person, it's like rules, regulations, none of that matters. All that matters is what they're above said, because it might as well have came from God, because to them that person is infallible. Why? Because, well, a lot of times they're also a narcissist, but more important, even if they're not a narcissist, that person up above them bestowed them power, help them get more supply, help them get off on exploiting and hurting people. And because, they're really, in a lot of cases, not qualified in this scenario, they're really going to hold on to that because where else are they going to get power? They got, more money and power. They're good. So they think they can fuck with people's lives with impunity and face no consequences. And they truly believe they have the right to do that. So anybody who's a bit of a rebel and exerts free will or rallies other employees to be like, this is wrong, we're not going to take it anymore. Ooh, the narcissistic rage is coming. Because the narcissistic middle management boss doesn't care about their underlings. And even if they seem to, like prior, because now there's nothing in it for them. See, they may have rallied to this cause before they were management because there was something in it for them. More pay, more time off, whatever you were fighting for. But now that they're middle management, they're completely subservient to their upper because, again, they have more money and above all else power. And there's nothing in it for them. They see the people below them now as their property. So they don't care about them. They're gonna kiss ass to the person above them because that's the person that keeps them into that little bit of power that goes to their head. You got it? Yeah. That made sense. I know it was a little convoluted and labyrinthian, but I think I made my point. So, the narcissistic boss, whether it's middle management or upper management, cares about one person, themselves. They only care about themselves. And to maintain that seat of power, because that seat of power is what gives them the ability, in a lot of cases, to exert their narcissistic rage and get their narcissistic supply, because a lot of people don't want to fight their boss. There's a lot of people in desperate situations who can't afford to lose their job, and they just take it. The narcissists love that. They hate the rebel with free will that just straight up says, like, this is illegal, you can't do this, and labor laws say this, and OSHA says this, and, you have they love double standards too. Like, that's the narcissistic boss will apply different rules to different people, which you're just asking for an EEOC lawsuit. Yeah. Be like, or if somebody rightfully speaks up, like, this is wrong, you can't make this person do this, like, this is not like my opinion, this is a law, they will retaliate against that person because maybe the person above the narcissistic boss is like, yeah, he's right, like, we could get in trouble big time, like, that could be a lawsuit. The narcissistic boss will still retaliate because it's like, how dare you question my authority? Don't you know who I am? And man, I can treat you however I want. I'm me. I love myself. That's the narcissist. So these are some reasons why narcissists hate free will. Anything, and especially those who, like if somebody else is trying to empower a narcissist target of free will, and it basically boils down to is because free will takes away their supply. They truly believe they have the right and the know-how to tell everybody how to live their lives. They love being like the center of attention, but they also love when people come to them and have to ask for their approval on every little thing. They love, love, love micromanaging. They like it, and they try to condition people to make them think and act as if they need to check with that narcissist before they do anything. Anything. I mean, if you're the target of a narcissist or a borderline, especially romantically, they're going to condition you to where like you don't go anywhere without letting them know. You don't change your work schedule, you don't call off, you don't call anybody, talk to anybody without their approval. Everything needs their approval. And if you have free will that basically says like, I'm an adult, I can do what I want, like, no, no, because they view you as their property, be it as, a partner or as an employee, because the boss will just be like, you do what I don't care how many hours you worked. Or the best is when the narcissistic boss makes you work overtime and then you don't get paid overtime and you complain about that and they still defend the company. Because again, it's not affecting them. It's not, their salary. What do they care? I remember that happened when I was on the golf course, when I was an assistant and I was on salary. One of my guys wasn't getting paid his overtime and they were bullying him into staying late because he knew how to run this one machine that was like all MacGyvered up. So not everybody, could work it because he was a smaller guy and the way this thing was rigged, he fitted it comfortably. I raised hell. And this was at Aronimink. Like I raised hell as some young 23-year-old manager right out of Penn State. And I was right. And they gave him his back to overtime and a bonus. This is the same guy they tried to cheat out of benefits because he requested in advance the benefits package in Spanish because he is bilingual, but he couldn't read English very well. He could speak it, but he couldn't read it. And they make it in Spanish, and he requested it, and they refused to give it to him, thinking, well, if we don't give it to him, then he won't get benefits, and we'll have to pay for those benefits. Yeah, I raised a lot of hell, and he got them. His daughters wrote me thank you notes because, that was the first time they got to go to the dentist and all that. And this is stuff, they were entitled to. Their father was a full-time employee. I mean, they tried to cheat him because he couldn't read English, which I find disgusting. I find all double standards disgusting, but narcissists love them. So, and you'll see that in the workplace, like, those who defy the narcissist, those who have free will, we give harsher, much, much harsher rules and regulations and things to abide by and lack of human rights. Those that enable the narcissist, they'll make excuses for all day long. So, to the narcissist, there is nothing worse than free will and those who embody it and try to empower their targets with it, because free will lets people make their own decisions. And as we all know, narcissists and borderlines feel they have the right to make people's decisions for them. I hope this video got its point across. It got a little labyrinthian at points because I went a little too deep and I wanted to make sure I got the point out I wanted. So, as always, please like and subscribe, help the channel grow. Share these videos to those that you think that'll help. They seem to be helping people, which is good. That's why it exists. So help more people. And, the more known I get, the more the algorithm will not screw me as much. I don't think YouTube likes channels like this because it calls people out and at times it can be controversial. Come on, YouTube, help me out. Huh? I know Chad Hurley. Come on. His mom was my second grade teacher. That's true. I'll dig my yearbook out. I heard about like the idea of YouTube in the 90s and we all are like, really? That's not going to happen. And then he did it. Yeah. So yeah, YouTube. I said the magic word, Chad Hurley. Help me in the algorithm. Come on. Remember, trust your intuition when it's time to exert your free will. Trust your intuition if you think someone is being robbed of their free will, and try to empower them to have it back, because it's something that we all have and no one can take it from you. You must give it away. And remember to keep your integrity intact. As much as a narcissist or a borderline may make you want to play dirty, you don't have to. They're in the wrong, you're in the right. So do what they hate. Exert your free will and tell the truth.